Alright, so I decided I was going to take a break from working on that thing because I'm kind of waiting to see if I can get the motor mounts off the bad motor from the previous owner because the guy he had working on it was not paying attention, I guess, or not bright enough to pull them off. Noticed that there's no motor mounts on the new motor, the replacement motor. Um, Sad part is I can buy the rubber, like the car side of the mount. You just can't buy the brackets aftermarket at all, at least for the engine side. So I'd either have to go to a salvage yard or try to find them used online, I guess. But we'll see what happens there. But figured I'd work on this thing, the 82, I think, 81, 82 Yamaha uh, Maxim 550 that I got on trade for my Camaro project. It's probably not worth the same as the car was, but it opened up space in the garage, so. But I got going. It sat pretty much all, well, it has sat all winter. It did fire and start, and it was like 30 degrees out the day I got this, but battery still got charge in it, so it doesn't have any goofy draws in it. Granted, I had the kill switch off all winter, but I noticed last fall when I got this thing that it was leaking gas from down into the carburetor somewhere, so I'm going to end up pulling the carbs out and making sure the floats are all good. And I pulled the tank off before I started videoing here, and it's got some old gas in it, so I'll clean that out and then make sure the petcock is working right, because these have motorcycles, if you've never worked on one, have your fuel line, and then that hose that's down there is a vacuum line. So it's actually supposed to work that it's only feeding fuel to the carbs when the motor is running and creating vacuum. Works pretty good usually, so. But I think what I'm going to click to here is this front brake sticks on this thing, and it's actually not too hard to fix. You don't even really need to get any parts usually, unless it's rough inside the caliper. But this one, the brake fluid looks kind of dirty, so I'm going to pop the line off down here, drain the fluid out, pull the caliper off, and then take it apart. You just pop the piston out. Usually you take and, clean out with some either like steel wool can work, but you gotta be careful. Make sure you clean it all, get all the steel wool fibers out. Otherwise, like Scotch-Brite, just to take any corrosion out of there. That's all you want to do is remove the corrosion. And usually if there's no pitting or bad pitting, I guess would be more accurate, and the seals look good, you can lube it up with some fresh brake fluid, stick it all back together, and usually it's good to go. I've done it before and never had a problem. But bike's in decent shape. It had the exhaust has been cut off right at the rear foot pegs. They did an okay job, but a little goofy. But yeah, it fired pretty good. It looks like it might have a little bit of an oil leak here. I don't know how far I'm going to go into this thing, what I'm going to really do with it, but biggest pain, I guess, with motorcycles, especially these 4-cylinder bikes, is there's not a lot of room here. This air cleaner's got to go back as far as it'll go, so you can pop the carbs out. I think, if I remember right, you got to pop these boots into the air box, and then you get enough room where you can slide the carbs out, and they usually only go one way. I think that on this bike, it looks like you can take them either way, so that's good. But these side covers just have these tabs. So there's one there, there's a push pin here, and another one there, and those just clip on here, here, and then right there. So that's another thing, I think every motorcycle, or just about every motorcycle from this era, came with a helmet lock factory. That's usually should be keyed to the factory key, as long as the ignition switch hasn't been tampered with. So, but yeah, I'm gonna get working on that, get the fluid drained, and pop that caliper off. This is supposed to be held right there by a clip. That's one thing that is broken on here, but that looks lovely. Grab that washer. The other one stayed on there, that's good. Yeah, that's nasty. I'll grab a rag and let that thing. I'm going to pop the cap off the reservoir up here so we can get most of this fluid to kind of bleed through. I want to try to get all the old fluid, most of the old fluid out, so it's got fresh fluid completely in it. Just keep pumping the brakes. Now it's going to be a good chunk of it. Now we're out of fluid in the reservoir. Towel, clean that, wipe that out. Hey, I think I got some water in there. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's a goo. Funny goo in there. Yeah, I'm glad I did that. Probably why the brakes were frozen, or not frozen, but sticking. Got gunk in there and gunked up the brakes, which I guess is kind of a good sign. It means I should be able to, like I said before, clean them out and just clean them up a little bit and move from there. Alright. Alright, let's see. I can go. Let that hang there. Have to clean that up with some brake clean. And let's see what size these bolts are. I'm guessing probably a 14 or a 15. Banjo bolt was a 12 millimeter, not 14. Let's see what these are. And they got lock washers. Ugh. Hold on. Am I doing more than I need to? Oh, no, it's just looks like the caliper has like a separation where you can take it apart off the bracket maybe. We'll see how well this thing comes off here, because last I remember the brakes were kind of froze up on it, so we will see. Well, looks like it's loose. Yep. That's enough for me to work with. The brake pads look okay. That's the other thing with motorcycles is I usually have one of these, a clip or something that actually will pin the brake pads in so they can't fall out, which is kind of nice when you're putting things back together. But, yeah. Then you gotta take it and pop that out over here and pull that out, and this pin should technically pull through. Oh, the screw holds on a plastic shield, that's all that is. I really should have a bigger pliers over here for this. There's one pad, see the hole through it for that pin. I kind of like it. It's got a metal piston. No, it doesn't really matter too much either way, but a lot of, I know, like the front brakes on my 97 F350, even on my 1978 F250, they call them the phenolic. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's a piston that's got it's like a ceramic piston, which, I mean, it's fine, but just not completely ideal, I guess, in my opinion. Alright. So I'm not gonna, the best way I found to get these dang things out, and you gotta be careful, because they can, if they're in there good, which this one may or may not be, is use a little bit of compressed air in the banjo bolt fitting, and just gently give it just short bursts to get it to pop out. But you gotta be careful. I know I about took off a finger with one of my truck calipers, because my 1978 F250 had a caliper stick on me, and that was the first one where I wasn't able to do this. I bought the seals and everything for it and couldn't get the piston out. It was that seized in there. So, but this one we should be able to get. So I'm gonna turn the camera off, fire up the air compressor, and pop that out, and then I'll. Well, the usual way of air didn't work on this one. The little seal O-ring in here was, you can see the piston was trying to move, but it was just too stuck on there. It didn't want to pull out like it should have, or pop out like it should have, so ended up having to resort to the, I guess, always reliable bread method, as they call it. You can use wax, or I think you can even use grease. I've never tried that, but basically all you do is you fill the cavity and you keep packing it full, and it gradually and slowly moves the piston out. So now I got it out, and I can clean up this mess and get it all hopefully put back together and have it working. Well, there. Gotta wipe this one off once more, but got the piston, there's a little bit of corrosion on the piston, got that all cleaned up. Got the O-rings. O-rings are both perfectly fine from appearance, so we're gonna, didn't look like it was leaking any brake fluids. We're gonna rerun these. I think they were just, the corrosion was mostly hanging it up. This is the basically weather seal for the outer, the wiper seal, so that one isn't super critical. But, and then got the bore all cleaned up, so we're gonna put the O-rings back in, lube them up with some fresh clean brake fluid, lube the piston up a little bit, and shove that back together. And then we'll probably throw it on the bike. I don't know if I'll, probably won't bleed the brakes or anything tonight, but at least get it back on there and hook back on. So yeah, still clean the banjo bolt yet, but that'll take 2 seconds with some brake clean. So alright, so we got our refresh caliper here. I grab one piece of it. There's a little spring clip that sits in this valley down here. I'll go grab that quick before I forget. Alright, we're back with a little spring clip that sits in the bottom here. Let's see. Goes in there. I'd be really stupid if I can't get it in with this. There it is. A little finagle, and then it's in there. Alright. So now, make sure we don't have an excess of brake fluid on our fingers. The brake pads can go in. I think, normally the piston side is the side that pushes more and wears more, so I'm going to put the thicker side on the piston side. That's a general way things work with a car. I don't know if that's exactly the same with a motorcycle, but we're going to go with that. Put the other pad in. Slide this pin through the rest of the way. There it is. Put this little safety pin in. flip the ear to the other side. There it is. Alright, there's that part. So now we can put this on the rotor, and then up here and find the hole. There's one. There's the other one. There it is. Alright. And tighten those down. I'm pretty sure this caliper is just aluminum, so I don't go crazy. Alright. And then banjo bolt. And then you get one little copper washer on one side, and the other one goes on the other side. Don't put them on both. Don't put them on both on the same side, because that would be, well, you would find out in short order what would happen. It would just leak like crazy, which would be no fun. And then, not super crazy, but there's that. This is supposed to be just like that, but that's an easy part to replace if needed. No, this is not the ideal way to do a caliper, but being as I'm not 100% sure what the heck I'm going to do with this bike, this is a, well, obviously inexpensive way to at least get the caliper kind of behaving. So, yeah. I might actually reclock this here a little bit so I can get to the bleeder a little bit easier. The next step will be, that I don't think I'm going to do today, is bleeding the brakes, which is kind of a pain, but not terrible on these. So, I might actually try to get a hold of a vacuum bleeder, because that's a heck of a lot easier. Otherwise, some guys have said you can do what you call reverse bleeding, which is you would open this bleeder, take the cap off the reservoir up on the handlebar, and then use like a large syringe with a tube on it with brake fluid in the syringe, and you just kind of slowly force the fluid back up to the reservoir. That works too. I've done that before. But yeah, so there's that. I think that's all I'm going to get done for tonight, and maybe check back in the next couple days. I don't know if it'll all be in the same video or not, but yeah.